Howdy everybody, welcome back to another Danganronpa 2 video, and usually I would be, going into something like, say, the class trial or going into, like, whatever, but this time, at this point of recording, I am literally about to go into the class trial of chapter 4, but I'm not going to be doing the class trial in the video, but instead I'm actually going to be talking about my experience with chapter 4 so far. So the reason why I'm deciding to talk about chapter 4 before going into the class trial, like, on my own, is because I was gonna say I have a prediction about who the execution will go to, like, who's the killer, but I had that prediction and now I'm sort of rethinking it. I still have that prediction, sort of, but because of evidence that sort of suggests otherwise, I'm kind of rescinding on that prediction. So my prediction was, or kind of still is, Kazuichi. Because, Nekamaru is the one that died, and my prediction is Kazuichi is the killer. One, because the elevator broke down and anything electrical sort of was disabled in a way or malfunctioned, and since Kazuichi is the ultimate engineer, it would make sense for him to be the killer in some respect. Plus, earlier on in the chapter, when they were doing a roller coaster ride just before it, Kazuichi really did not want to do it, and so Nekamaru kind of pushed his buttons and just, carried him. And maybe because when they all went into the fun house and they had to starve to death or, kill somebody, then because Kazuichi was starving to death, maybe he couldn't really think straight, because, when you starve, but when you don't have food, your brain just goes all warped and you struggle to even rationalize things. And so what I think, or what I thought, is for some reason Nekamaru decided to do something to Kazuichi to then cause Kazuichi to take out Nekamaru. But then that would involve Kazuichi going through the final dead room to get a weapon to take on Nekamaru, aka the hammer. But then again, I switched POV to Nagito, and there were weapons in the final dead room, but okay, yeah, there were definitely weapons. Would you call the hammer the ultimate weapon? I don't think you would call the hammer an ultimate weapon. I don't even know what. I know that Monokuma likes to trick people a lot, so that's what I'm saying, that the ultimate weapon doesn't actually exist. So whilst I had the prediction of Kazuichi, it was kind of a flawed prediction, because it makes somewhat sense motive-wise, but at the same time it doesn't really make sense. But also, going from Kazuichi, going back to Nagito. Oh boy. So ever since we've been finding more about the plot side of things of Danganronpa, and part of my issue with Danganronpa, this one, was mostly it didn't feel connected to the previous one. At least that's what I thought at first, and then when this started happening, I was like, okay, so it really is connected, because I had, like, people in the Discord saying to me that they are connected like franchise-wise, but loosely connected as in story-wise. Like, it's technically in the same universe, but it is its own story. And because of that, I just thought, well, it confuses me. It confused me because I didn't really know what to think about it. Like, is it connected? Is it not connected? Like, and I don't quite understand why it's considered a spoiler if it's connected. Like, I don't understand why that would be a spoiler, but apparently it is. I mean, maybe it's obvious why it's a spoiler, and I'm just like a bit dumb for not realizing why, but I don't know why it is. But also, yes, Nagito. So, I mean, it was nice to be in his POV, even though it was twisted how he thinks, how he acts towards people. And the fact that when he was in the Final Dead Room, oh my god, yeah, the Final Dead Room, that escape room, I hated that so much. I mean, it's not that I hate escape rooms, because that's what it was, but it's more so what you had to do in the escape room that I hated. Because you, it's said about like, oh, watch the news, and apparently the game is, you know, giving you all these hints. Oh, the news is related to the code. And I'm like, unless the letters news, because the way it was written on the wall, the N in news was like kind of skewed, that it looks like a 2. And then you got E, which kind of looks like a 3. Then you got W, which also kind of looks like a 3. And then you got S, which looks like a 5. So I thought, okay, 2335, maybe that would be the code. But no, the code was to do with north, east, west. Like, okay, I get that earlier on in the... Actually, before coming to the Final Dead Room, we did talk to Kazuichi about using the compass. So I guess it makes sense to use the compass as a way to do northeast, southwest, but that is such a reach. How would you know that news is to do with northeast, southwest? That is a reach. And I cannot believe the game kind of relied upon that. I don't think that it expected you. I feel like it relied on you to realize that somehow, I don't really know how, like, how would you know that? There's literally like no information. Sure, okay, you got numbers on each wall, that's fine. But also, even if you have a compass, how would you know which way is north? How would you know which way is south? Literally, the only thing... I literally had to look up a guide on this. Usually, well, barely any time I look up a guide. I mean, the only time I look up something to do with Danganronpa is like a, you know, to do with the class trial. I just watch a video on how people do it, and then that's how I do it. But I actually had to look up a physical text guide online for this. Because, oh my goodness me. So yeah, I really, really hated that escape room. And apparently, the code... Look, you had to do 2 codes on that same code input thing on the wall. So, okay, you used a news code for that code input. Then you use another code for the same code input. Like, why? I feel like that whole escape room just really fumed me. It really frustrated me and annoyed me because of how dumb it was. It was not, I don't think, it was not clever. It's trying to be clever, but it wasn't clever. Like, I'm sorry to say, it wasn't clever. But anyway, yes, going back to Nagito. Goodness me. So yes, because Nagito got through the Final Dead Room and was so ready to kill himself, like, he wasn't even hesitating. He was just like, oh, let's just do this. I mean, obviously he didn't actually kill himself. Unfortunately. But then after that, he goes into the octagonal room and finds a window, and he's like, "Oh, it finally makes sense. It's all connected." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And this scenario felt a lot like it felt like, for example, you get given a book, and on the book it says the reason why you're here, and you're looking for that reason, right? So then that book gets thrown into a cage, and the only way to get into that cage is by using a key. And in this case, the key is Hajime, because we're not playing as Hajime, we're playing as Nagito. And the only way, I suppose, that we're going to find out this information is by us being Hajime, being the main character, and all of the information that we get is through Hajime and not through Nagito. So that was a piss. But once again, I get why. It just... And after the POV switch, we go back to Hajime, and then in front of Hajime, we literally just see Nagito just appear. And then Nagito is like, oh, I'm here. Cool. And he's like, oh, I wonder how I'm here, huh? Maybe I teleported. And it's like, what, has it become Monami and Monokuma now? Because, yeah, of course, Monokuma and Monami can teleport and just, appear in rooms. I mean, I used to question how they did that in Danganronpa 1, but because of how often they do it, I just like, it's a thing that they can do. I mean, they're literally in charge of the whole thing. Not sure about Monami, but Monokuma is literally in charge of the whole thing. So I just assume that because they are in charge, they can just pop up whenever they like, which is something that just, it's something that you just accept, because it is what it is. I mean, it's great to question things, but some things you don't need to question necessarily, because is it really that important? What's really important is the characters, and I mean, Monokuma is a character, as much as you want to kill him. So yes, Nagito is now, I guess, able to teleport because he was able to enter into the octagonal room, and because he's been given the files about Hope's Peak Academy, and I really, really like how they've brought it back like this, like giving them the information about the previous characters from that time in the school, and then Nagito was like, "Oh, I got really bored reading this because none of them I know about." Which, you know what, it's completely fair enough. Like, if you don't know about any of the characters, like, why should you care as much? But I mean, it should also be interesting how you're from Hope's Peak and yet you got files about other characters from Hope's Peak, so it should be somewhat interesting, right? But this is Nagito we're talking about, like, of course he wouldn't be fucking interested. And so then Nagito appears in front of Hajime, and because not only was he given the files for Hope's Peak Academy, but he was also given the files for Hajime. Just Hajime. Like, no other person is this files involved. Like, the profile was literally just for Hajime. And just because Hajime is not really that special, because he's just a reserve, apparently. And I feel like this is like a scenario where I feel like this is a worse scenario compared to like Kyoko from the previous game, because at least Kyoko has an ultimate, and I feel like it's more satisfying that way. I mean, I'm not saying that learning about Hajime's profile isn't satisfying, but Kyoko's reveal is a bit more satisfying than the reveal of Hajime's. I mean, I'm not going to say what Kyoko's reveal is, because even if you have already played the first game, it's that type of thing that, like, even though people have already seen it and have already experienced it, because if you haven't already experienced it, then why are you playing the second game? I still want to be extremely careful, you know? I don't want to say things like just, you know, accidentally just blurt out things and people's experience be spoiled, you know? So that's why I'm keeping it out of this. And another thing I wanted to mention is that because Nagito was talking about the Hope Speak Academy's killings and how they seem to be similar to the killings in the second game, which I feel like it's a little bit of a meta thing, because it, in summarization, it's trying to say that the second game is literally just a repeat of the first game but with different characters. And it's kind of what it's saying, but it's poking fun at it, which on one hand is kind of humorous, but on the other hand, you're literally just saying that your game is the same game but repeated with different characters, and it's like less effort. That's kind of what you're saying, and bringing it home like that, it kind of just rubs salt into the wound that you've just been playing so many hours of this game that feels like it's the same game, just with different characters, and I guess a different-ish sort of plot, I guess. Well, different characters and different setting, of course. It's just... Although saying that, it was slightly helpful knowing that information, because saying that it's similar killings is saying that in Chapter 4 of Danganronpa 1, it was a... Well, if you've seen it, then you know what I'm talking about. Then, in this chapter, it might also be that, which makes me think that it might not actually be Kazuichi at all. Which begs the question, I don't even know... I mean, was it Kazuichi or was it not Kazuichi? Well, because Kazuichi is the only one that I can think of. Well, either it's Kazuichi or it's Nagito, because Nagito is also a suspicious entity in this case. But I don't know now. And one other thing before I actually end this part of the recording is that they found out that the Strawberry Tower, the point in the middle, sort of rotates as you go into the elevator, because if you open it from one side, it looks exactly the same when you open it from the other side, which, I mean, it feels like a Hogwarts scenario, I guess, where, well, okay, maybe not necessarily Hogwarts, but it feels like a building which rotates as you use a rotating mechanism. Because as you're all using the elevator, you assume that it's just the elevator that's moving, but maybe it's either the whole building that's moving, or it's the middle room that is moving alongside the elevator, which... I mean, I'll find more after the class trial, or during the class trial at least, and I will discuss it. I will talk about it further later on. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. And you know what, before I end off this recording, I also wanted to just mention, I just remembered this, because of how Nagito has found out about Hajime, I thought that's why his behavior and how he acts, how his attitude is towards people, was just because of how he found out about Hajime. But apparently, because he defeated the final dead room and was able to go into the octagonal room, he now feels superior to everybody else. Because I heard one of the dialogue was like, you guys are a bunch of useless brats because you can't, like, you've overlooked a simple thing, or you're too dumb for this case because I'm the smartest out of all of you. Literally, just by doing the escape room and going into the octagonal room, Nagito feels literally just like Byakuya did from Danganronpa 1. His whole attitude reminds me completely of Byakuya. And it's just... I hope he dies. He's just absolutely insane. And the most absolutely insane thing that he did was actually use Nekomaru's dead body parts for the elevator. He literally has zero fucking remorse. That is just, oh my fucking god. So anyway, that's going to be this recording, and then yeah, of course the next recording is going to be me talking about the events after the class trial, so I'll see you guys then. Okay, so just done the class trial of chapter 4, and oh my goodness. So it turns out Kazuichi wasn't the one, and it turns out there was no, like, suicide either. So it turns out Gundam is the one. It just so happens to be the people that you least expect. I don't know if that's like the intention of, like, you know, subverting expectations, but I wish that I wish there was a bit more breadcrumbs as to pointing towards who it could be. But I felt like with this one, there was almost no breadcrumbs. It was just like, oh. And you know what? Here's one thing that I really did not like about this chapter. They literally used a very small detail from the chapter, which is like, when they entered the funhouse, Monokuma mentioned how the rooms, how like one of the rooms, like the deluxe rooms, have like soundproofing. Apart from that moment that he mentioned it, no other time was it ever mentioned. So of course you would forget about it because there was no focus on it. How would you fucking remember that? And that's what really pissed me off about the trial, is that the game seemingly relies on you remembering a small, tiny detail, when how would you remember it? I mean, if you're going through the game and noting down every detail that you could possibly note down, I suppose, but then you'd be noting down everything. I just find it absolutely beyond ridiculous how you put that small detail in there and then you just send it over to Gundam. Because, like, there was a point in the class trial where it was saying, oh, it was this person, and it's making it sound like it's so obvious how it's this person. And I was literally following the guide because by that point I was kind of checked out with the class trial. It felt like it was just dragging and dragging. I mean, I know that I've said that a few times of like previous class trials, but I feel like this one, I feel like out of all of the class trials I've been through, this one has felt the most chore-inducing. I don't know what it is about it, but one, it's an extreme brain box because it's about the funhouse, the secret of the funhouse, and then finding out who the killer is and the ultimate weapon. The ultimate weapon was the funhouse itself, which I will admit is a nice reveal. I mean, I've got no issues with that per se. I just have kind of issues with Gundam being the killer. And get this, the reason why Gundam is the killer and he killed Nekomaru is, one, out of pure annoyance. Like the most pathetic reason you could possibly ever have. Just because the other one was annoying. And number two, because, you know, you don't want to give up on life by starving your life away, so then you would kill to give yourself life. Because the way Gundam phrased it is that life is about not starving and life is about not killing. But if you're struggling against both of them, then one has to happen. So I guess he was the one to make that happen, which fair game. I kind of wish that he only used that reason, even though it's a very complicated one to go through, because on one hand, you would hate him for it, but on the other hand, what else could you possibly do? Like, once again, the one reason why they're all in this in the first place is because of Monokuma, of course. But you can kind of see reasoning for why he did it. Apart from the annoyance part, which once again is completely pathetic. And it just so happened to be that the killer Gundam is the one that I care the very, 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 very least about. Like, of all of the characters, he is the one that I kind of just skipped most of the dialogue because, I mean, to me, most of the dialogue is just saying a lot of things without actually saying anything. And now I understand that a lot of dialogue that comes from Gundam, it does seem like like it's a way of describing something, or the way he speaks is like describing something, or it's like a way of speaking, like metaphorically, or using words to say something. But of course, it's a different language from other people, even though it's the same language as everyone else, but it's the communication is different. It's hard to explain, but I hope whoever's watching understands what I mean. So the reason why I skipped most of his dialogue was because of that, and because I skipped most of his dialogue, I just did not really care much about his character, which is why when he died, I kind of felt nothing. I mean, to be fair, most of the people that are the killer and when they get executed, I feel something, but I don't really feel a whole lot, which is a common theme throughout, Danganronpa. Now, of course, there are going to be characters that you sort of latch on to. Since Danganronpa is known, unfortunately, for the lack of, actually decent writing, that whole latching onto a character is, at best, surface level. At worst, I don't quite know where I was going with that. But overall, I just found that the class trial was a bit... I wanted the killer to either be Kazuichi or Nagito, just so that we can get rid of Nagito finally. But, of course, that's unfortunately not the case. Now, after the class trial happened, Nagito had a conversation with Monokuma about the traitor and how the traitor could actually be the traitor is it seems to be like one of the remaining people. And one thing that was mentioned is how one of the people that was part of the killing game beforehand could have come back. And the only thing I can think of is, what if there's somehow like a cloning of Byakuya, and maybe Byakuya is the one that's controlling, and sort of made a clone of himself to erase his memory and then make him fatter for whatever reason. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know, but I am intrigued about the rest of the game. And once again, I will very likely record chapter 6, but chapter 5 I will still go through by myself, and then I will get to the class trial and sort of talk about my thoughts again and, do all this stuff again. But I'm very much looking forward to the rest of it, because according to people, the ending is pretty good. Now, the ending of Danganronpa 1, I personally liked it. I didn't like the theming of it because, it's the whole if you know what the theming is, then you know what I'm talking about. But I liked it because I just liked it. I just liked it. Though I think I liked it mostly because of the characters rather than like what was happening with the plot. I think that's why I liked it the most. Now, I don't know if I'm going to feel the same with the characters at the end of this game, but we will see. Anyway, I think that's all I can really say about this so far. I mean, I like that Monokuma mentioned how Nagito reminds him of someone from the previous game, especially when Nagito said something about the ultimate hope, and just another thing that reminded him of that guy, and that put a smile on my face because like I knew exactly who he was talking about, so that was absolutely fantastic. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.